Here you go, here's a nice little trick for the kids. I'm cladding this Foamex with a very thin sheet of styrene, and just to stop me from playing around trying to get the right position, I've masking taped one piece here to a piece that's already stuck on. So all I basically have to do is flip it up, apply some glue, and then flip it back down again, and it will be in the correct position. I've left a little space here to just add some little chunks along later, so I'll just put a bead of glue in there now and get some to come out of the bloody pot, and we'll do this. And I'd come away from the edge so that you can actually put some solvent in there around the edge later. If you press it down good and hard, you shouldn't get any fluctuations in the panel, and you don't need activator because that will just go off by itself. A good firm press, and if any does squidge out along the edge, just get a tissue and just get rid of it. But that looks okay, and then you just go in with the solvent along the edge so it doesn't lift. And that's that piece put on. Now I've put it matte side up so I can draw on it. You see? And then once it's gone off, you just peel off your masking tape, and that piece is pretty much ready to go. Probably a bit of chloroform along the top. Well, it's actually not chloroform, it's dichloromethane. Right, I mean, spray paint will show up any little imperfections in that. Now, in the past I've been known to be quite fast, but I'm not actually fast. I just use some nice time-saving little tricks that I've sort of been forced to do working in the film industry. And one of these is using rulers to dictate where lines go. I mean, that means you don't have to measure twice to get that line on there. You just use the edge of a ruler, as long as you keep it parallel, and that's down to your eye with one edge. You just mark on Foamex, which is great because it's almost like paper, and it will leave a line. Even if you used to erase this pencil line, you'd have a line there, but that doesn't matter because you're going to be covering this with cladding anyway. So, and I'm just messing around with panel lines and seeing whether I like them or not, so I may well rub it off and start again. But this is a quick way of doing your panel line. So, you know, that's that. Just using the back of a scalpel blade to establish a position, a line should I say, to cut this piece of ABS. Yeah, you see there's a good solid line there. Catching the light. Yep. Another nice little trick is if you buy a fine saw blade and you don't put it in the spine with the handle, you've just got it flat, you can get a nice flush cut if you just hold it flat against the job and pull it back and forth like that. I mean, I'm not bothered about little marks because this is going to be clad, but this, you know, should take this off quite flush to the body. If I have a sharper blade, if you've got a spine on it, you know, you'd have to have it at an angle to allow for the spine. But, I think this is a bit blunt. Go from that side. Once you got started, you don't need your finger to guide it so much. There you go, and you can just sand off the excess there with a block. Well, that's not too bad. Now, there are two pieces of Foamex in here from before with the previous configuration, but I'm constructing a cockpit here and these are in the way, so it's stuck so well you'll never flick these off. You could perhaps chisel them off, but I think the easiest way to get these off is power file. Now, normally I'd go in with the big one. I'm going to go in with the smaller one. So let's just put some light on the subject and carefully. Right. That's why I sometimes use the bigger belt. Well, the little one snapped, so it's back to the big one. there you go. It's been removed. Now I really should think about putting transport tubes in, or square section for transportation of wires, because otherwise I could end up undoing detail work in order to hack into it, access panels, that kind of thing. So I'm going to use a long series drill to put a couple of holes in here, and I should be able to flip it around and look through and see where the light is coming through, so I can put some section in there that goes the whole length of the ship. So there's no way of getting a small drill in there, so this is about the best place for putting the wires from below the cockpit lights. You can keep the thing. Yeah, that's gone in. Don't want to damage this at all, even though it's going to be clad. Another one on that side. Yeah, that's two. You see the holes in there. Just about see the holes there. And there's the other one. So I know there's a way through for the wires. For cladding this with styrene, some of the difficult areas like this, I'd make a template just out of paper. So it saves a lot of time measuring, and you know, you're pretty sure it's going to fit exactly right. So you just masking tape it together, and then I just spray mount onto a piece of styrene. But you sort of develop ways of minimising you know, glue particles in the air, so I tend to just tape it to a bit of masking tape, which I'll show you now. And you don't cut all the way through the masking tape, so you can use it to keep the thing in place. So that's the shape I want. So there's styrene. This styrene's case in point, because it's not completely opaque. It's got a, you know, translucent quality to it, which is good because it means you can see lines through it. You know, so this is good stuff. Anyway, I had to choose a corner so as not to waste too much of it. Tape across that. And let's go all the way across them for that. Now, with one's reading glasses, of course, you can start to knife through it, and really you should only need one pass, but I stop there and carry on there. And then that. That. On the right. Turn it. Probably edit this out because this is boring. kind of easier to leave the camera running and keep stopping and starting. Top right. I think that is it. That one done? Yep. So then you just take the tape off. And then fill in the gaps. I mean, with a steady hand and a good eye, you should be able to go exactly along the same line and feel it with your scalpel. There you go. So it's as if there was never any tape there. And I think that's saved me a lot of faffing, cleaning glue off and things like that. So I'm hoping this will fit perfectly. Let's go on. Right, there you go, this should just snap out. Yep. Okay. Just little bits. So there's your piece. And with any luck, it should fit perfectly in position. There you go. Perfect. So I'd decide whether there's any little recesses to be cut out of this before I stick it on. There's also that hood there that needs probably cutting out, but that's how to do any sort of tricky bits like that. I mean, you could cheat it by making it out of pieces and just turn that into a split line, but it's nice to have the option not to. Excuse me, there you go. Foamex is a bit like hard cheese. You can knife it off. I mean, I want to do this chamfer here, and you could just sand it off, but it's not great with sanding. It will sand, but it's quite sort of claggy, and it's not easy. But this you can take to the quite close to the line, and then finish it off with a sanding disc. And it just saves a lot of elbow grease. There you go. And then I've just got a ruler with some tape and some wet and dry around it, and just hold it steady. This is going to be clad with styrene anyway, but alright, and as long as it's flat, it's fine. There you go. Here's a little trick. Say for instance this edge was not square, or even this edge, so that you can stick it flush to the model. Rather than hole this and try and sand it, is to stick a square on a piece of wet and dry and place that against your square and move it back and forth a bit whilst pressing against the square, and that edge should be nice and square to that edge now. Simple little thing like that. Another nice little time-saving device is to use found objects, well, tools and stuff, to space things and measure things. It saves you actually having to look on a ruler and see what the dimension is. I know I go on about time saving, but this is one of the ways that I've got a reputation for being fast, not for being fast but just for employing these little tricks. You know, this will keep you square in 2 planes at least. So you know, you just pop a tiny bead of super glue along there, and then you can pop that on against that nice perpendicular surface there and just hold it until it goes off. And all these are nicely evenly spaced because they use the same bit of kit to do it. So I think that's on. There you go. Here's a little trick for getting a panel into a slot that's bigger than the slot, and you want to glue it in position. You attach a bit of masking tape onto it. I've got a line there which shows where the slot should be, and then I'd put a bead of glue around there, sort of guide it in there, and then pull it forward and hold it in place while the glue goes off. So let's try that, shall we? It worked in practice. Not always gonna go well when you go for it. I've got a bead of glue on there, and there you go, it's going in, and black line. So yeah, I can just pull on that until I feel it's gone off. You could spray activator on it, but of course you'd probably need a third hand. So luckily it goes off pretty quick, super glue with Foamex. So I could move to pull in the middle and then perhaps trickle some activator in there. So try a little bit just to make doubly sure. It's just a bit on the end of my brush. Looks like it's taken. And once that's gone off for good, you can just pull the masking tape off and you've got a nice little recess. There you go. Some of the tape's trapped under there, or is it? No. Bingo. There you go. One recess. Obviously this wigget here won't fit into that recess, but you'll notice there are a couple of arrays there which are about 15mm across, so I'm going to chop those out and put them in the recess. Now you can see this piece is handed, so I can do the same on both sides, but you get a lot of value out of cutting a piece like this up instead of just sticking it on as it is, because it means people find it harder to recognise the pieces. In fact, oh, there's a bee. God. Take 2, thanks to a bee interrupting me. Right, this is the same as this. It's handed, so I can use this on the same, on the other side. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be doing a voiceover because I'm just all over the place. This is, it's harder for people to recognise what you're using here. If you chop a piece up, that's the advantage of doing it like this, chopping it up. And I'm going on about time yet again, but when you've got a model which is going to be many, hundreds, maybe even thousands of hours, you need to try and save a couple of hundred if you can, with whatever means possible. I've bandsawed these out, and I know a lot of you would use an X-Acto blade, but it's just about twice as fast. So given that it's going to be sunk into a recess, you're never going to see the cut edges anyway, so it doesn't matter. So anyway, let's I'm just going to offer these up to see how they might look to the actual model. And yeah, I think these could look pretty cool. This one might need chopping in a little bit, and I'll put some further very small wiring over the top of that to help the scale as well, but yeah, I'm going to use these. Why not? Here's a nice piece I found, but it had too much depth really to use. Now, I should have shown you before I cut it, but I'll show you anyway. Normally I might have the confidence to just go through that handheld back here, of course, keeping the fingers away, but I'd just offer it up to the blade, which I know obviously is going to be perpendicular with this, and then just maintain that position and then go through with it. But if you're a bit shaky and it's a morning, I tend to use a block, which is square, perfectly square block, and I'd press the piece up against the block like that, and then I'd go through the sort of the bandsaw blade on the block like that, and then you'd know it was square. So sometimes there's a bit of tickling up to do on the back to make it level, but now you've got a much shallower piece to use. I might even mould that because it's so nice, some of this indentation here. Another one is you might want to use parts of toys, but only want to use a small part of it, or certainly undoing them into their constituent parts is always good anyway, and you see what you've got. In the past we've gone through quite a lot of these, so again developed another way of doing it quite fast. I mean, you can use a screwdriver by hand, but of course the faster way would be to loose the end, the hexagonal lug that you get on the end. I've just lost with a bandsaw or in a hacksaw, and so now I can get it into a drill. So now that's gone in the drill, these come out so much faster. So it's apart already. You might have only saved I don't know, 10 seconds, but if you're doing a lot of them, it adds up to a few minutes. Yeah, model making is a very time-consuming thing, so if you can save time on there, I think it's a good thing to do. There's not quite apart, but get the idea. Nice one there. Oh well, I'm going to be cutting that after I've done the first one. These I'm going to use for the engines, and what I want to do to give it some depth is to remove this middle here and maybe drill some holes through here. I'm not going to be cutting a disc with a hole in it to do all four. I've just estimated where the middle is, and I'm going to be just doing it by eye. I've drawn a pencil line in there. There's a little ledge there, so I just used it to draw a pencil line which would help me visually locate the centre better, you know, because you've got a stronger circle there, makes it easier. So now I've got somewhere to put my centre mark, as it were, dot punch. I'm just using a scriber because it's soft enough resin that you can just press into it. Okay, and you can sort of get it pretty much in the middle. I think that's in the middle. I'm going to do a very small pilot hole using what is known in the term as a wanker's drill. I think you can see why. Okay, that's gone through. Now I can work up through the sides now. And obviously I'll speed up these little bits in between so it's not boring. Obviously I'd use a pillar drill if it was straight, if it was up like that, but it's on an angle, so I'll match the angle with my eye. Size up. Okay. Bigger still. Alright. Just check that looks like it's in the middle. Yeah. Pretty good. So yeah, do 4 more like that, and then say the outer ones I will drill. I'm toying with the idea of using Freon gas. I think I'll have the light in the middle and possibly the Freon gas coming out through the small holes. I have to do some tests yet. We'll see how that goes. Anyway, in an attempt to get a larger effect with the engine, because I'm going to use propellant, I've drilled a series of holes here which I'm going to try and direct the gases through to, avoiding the light by making a little channel with a piece of tube there, because usually they just come from a single source. So I'm just going to try and improve on that. So I'm just going to do a test here. So let's just zoom over to the vise. I'm going to do this, and this time I'll get it in focus. I'll try anyway. So that goes in there. And we should be able to focus on this. Okay, we're going to try now to do this in focus. It's a test for one of the engines using Freon gas. So let's just see how this goes. I think it's going to produce too much water, but we'll see about that. Let me just see again about the light. I'd use a bigger one, of course. But anyway, 3, 2, 1. Too much water, methinks. Let's try again. 3, 2, 1. yeah, way too much water. And this is a test with a single pipe coming through the middle of the engine. You still get water. 3, 2, 1. Oh, sorry, can not the right way up. Upside down the can needs to be. Try again. 3, 2, 1. Well, that's quite big actually, probably too big. 3, 2, 1. Better than before though, only a couple of drops of water. Yeah, I like that. Well, I didn't think I was going to use this, but I've spotted something I can use it for, and I've chopped off these two pipes here. Well, you can see the end result here. I've put them in this recess here, and I just noticed something. Oh shit. I'm making these covers for a slot in the top of the wing section, as it were, and I just came across a little thing which I again take for granted, but people who have not come into contact with it might not. So I've chopped up this toy here, you see, and you guys use a lot of kit parts and probably don't get this happen, but when you get toys from car boot sales that kids have had, you get things like felt tip on them. Now, although grey primer, plastic primer, is very good at covering all these different tones, you can't just spray on top of that. Felt tip will bleed through whatever you stick on top of it, so I always get rid of it. So you know, I'd normally just scrape it off with a scalpel, but sometimes you can get it off with some lighter fuel. Sometimes it won't. It's been on for a long time, you know, and it just is really tough to get off. Now, the other one you can try is cotton bud. Again, I find the time invested, you know, I could have probably done it with the scalpel by now. So, you know, I know you probably don't want to leave a lot of marks on these things, but I'm going to be covering these with extra detail, so the chances of seeing any mark are reduced. So anyway, there we go, that's mostly off now. This bit is actually inside the piece, so that can come off because those details are quite nice, so I'll cut those off before I stick the piece in. There you go, you know, just a little note, get rid of black felt marks. Well, here's a test with it hooked up slightly differently, but I expect there'll be a lot of water with this as well. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, rubbish. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, I think the problem is as soon as you put a chamber of any kind in there, it creates the water. You know, that's the problem. Okay, here's another little one for you. I'm just sort of taking some material away from these leg struts at the moment, just to make them a bit more slender looking. This side I took out with a bandsaw, and what I'm going to do is just pop in the detail, Peter, and glue that in. Just looks a bit more elegant. I'll do one on the other side, and there'll be some beading around here as well. So, but on this one, I couldn't bandsaw all of it out, and there was a peak here which I had to take out with a needle file. But here's the reason for the film. Is as I was doing it, I realised I was using a trick, and it was basically this needle file. I'll probably have to zoom in to this one and focus. Okay, I don't know if you can see that. It's had this edge actually ground off, so there's no file on that edge at all, which means, I'll zoom back out again and focus, means that when I want to file this off and I don't want to file into this material here, I can use my finger as a stop. I don't know if you can see it there. I'm using my finger to stop the file from coming any further, and because I've got the edge ground off, it means I don't file into my finger. So this way you can file away at that there, and it's nice and neat when it's done, and your finger's saved as well. So that's another handy hint. Now I want to put some alley rod in here for some extra suspension, as it were. So I've got to drill some holes here, which I've now got to cut because the batteries are going. Great. Right, after much rummaging around, I found the adapter, so now I'm hooked up to the mains. No battery fail. Right, get the grump off. Yeah, I want to stick some pistony type things in here, and yeah, I know it would have been ideal to have drilled these out before I stuck them on, but you don't always know what you're going to do. So with the creative thing going on, you know, so what I'm going to do is drill these out and slide these in after the event. Now I've just hand drawn some circles there by eye, just to give me an idea of where they're going to go, and then I've dot punched the centre here just to start a small pilot drill off. Now that's probably inaccessible to most drills, but what I've got is this long series drill. This is the pilot, and I will go in there with that, and it's quite easy to keep this parallel, you know, because you can just eyeball it against the side of the thing and keep that straight, and then I go in with the bigger one. These you can pick up from RS, or even EMA used to do them, so you'd have to check at the end of the DVD for a list of suppliers. So I'll do this now. I'll just cut and I'll put the drills in. Okay, we're going now with the pilot. And check that's all in focus. So start off slowly. So that'll be enough to get me started, actually. Number 2. So that's the 4 pilots done. Now we're going with the bigger one, and you just guide it with your thumb there, make sure it stays in place. Alright, obviously I don't want to go in too far. Check. Probably far enough. So that's gone in about 15 mil. Like that. Other side. And still on there. alley, so I can't really bend it that much without it kinking. If I was using rod, then it wouldn't be so critical and I could bend it, but I want some of the alley to poke through because it looks really nice metallic. So that's that one. Let's just check. Goes in fine. Nice push fit. So probably want about 4 pieces that long. So just get the old RS pipe cutter. And somewhere back there, wasn't it? And this will be speeded up. There's one. Of course I'll need 16 in all. Okay, that's 4. Now I think there's going to be a burr on the end. Let's take that off. There's a bit of wet and dry. Now let's see if I've got anything there. They'll need extra work. But here you go. There's some extra. Again, this trick of using a found object as a spacer saves so much time. You know, measuring these separations. You know, it's I just draw a pencil line either side of that, and you've got your pencil lines for me to now stick the plastic on. And as I say, just a little time saver. Okay, well, I'm going to put this piece on here now. This Foamex needs cladding because it's furry, so I just take a couple of measurements across here. I think 4.5mm should do it. And I use scraps because, well, I just use scraps. I don't like to cut from a big piece if I don't have to, just to save material really. When you're on, you know, a small job like I'm doing, you know, it's budget affair. So I'll just take a piece like this. It's obviously too long and too wide, so I'll just cut that to approximate length. I'll trim it. I'm over here, aren't I? Trim it. Now what? If you put a ruler on here, it's going to rock a bit. I've been using this one and this rocks a lot. But if you just offer up a piece right next to it, it supports the ruler underneath. So that's now resting nice and flat, and you can press this leading edge right hard against the material. So That's why I do that. I mean, it's taken for granted, but some people might not do it. And you have to press down really hard just to light past the first one and go about 3. Now you can go all the way through, or you can snap it. So I just I'll snap it in this case. I don't know why I did that, because I usually go all the way through. And this one, you probably have to zoom in a bit closer, maybe. And focus. Because this is translucent, you can see any marks underneath it. So where this corner miters here a little bit, I'm going to put an extra pencil line. Now this one I'll just cut off. I'll just echo that angle there and scalpel this off. Oh, drop my scalpel, and then offer that up to there, and then mark here where the mitre is, and cut that off. Great. Move around. And that piece can be glued on. Another little trick, probably a lot of you know, but some of you don't. Instead of using tweezers to put this little piece onto here, I actually use the tip of my scalpel blade. Provided you haven't broken it off doing something else, because you can break off, you know, the tiniest point, and it's not as sharp. And I just have the pot ready with a tiny bit of solvent in it, and reading glasses on, of course, so you can see what you're doing. And I just very lightly press the tip into it. It's a certain, you know, if you press too hard, you won't be able to pull it out. And if you're not hard enough, the piece will fall into the solvent. So I just touched it into the solvent a little bit, and it was just so easy to put it in position. Some along the edges. There we go. Right, here's a use of a bit of a butchered toy. I think it was a transformer, it was a missile firer, and I always open things up because quite often inside you get some nice detail. I mean, all those ribs, you wouldn't normally use that, but for something like the interior of this loading bay that I'm doing, or this ramp, it's ideal. Obviously I take these off because these are very, very toy-like. You know, because that's where the screw goes in. That's what gives the game away. But the rest of it's good, and you can always create a function for these by putting something on top of those. So I'll put some very small cylinders on top of these and some pipes and stuff. But we'll show you where they're going to go. First one will go in there. That's, is that, yeah, blocking the light, of course. And that one, I've put some support walls in so it will rest in place. So that one will go about there. And then, no, that's as far back as it will go. And the other one will go in there. So a lot of value. Right, I'm just making multiples of this shape, and rather than measuring it out every time, I've just measured one out and I'm using it as a template to do the others. And you only need a very, very light scalpel line, against the, the template. 2 or 3 of those on there, which I've already done. And the trick is, so you don't get this in the wrong place. I'm just very lightly passing the tip across the surface until it falls into the groove, and then you can proceed from there. And you're probably going to get them more similar doing it this way than you would if you were going to draw it out 6 times. And that's 1. I've done 6, or we'll be doing 6. Well, having made the engine unit, the actual housings are getting in the way, and I can't push this back to where it was before. But you can hack at this. That's the beauty of this stuff, Foamex. Is you can go in after the event and cut it out. So you can just knife it. First thing I'll do here is put a pencil line to go to. I think that would be enough. And I might even have to stand up for this bit. Just to get above it, Now if it goes at an angle, it doesn't really matter. Oh, that's loose. Anyway, that'll break out easily enough. Okay, try again. Open the way. Some days, you just can't seem to coordinate your fingers. You have to press lightly until it's really found its route along the ruler. There we go, we're through now pretty much. On that side. And you can be brutal and just snap things off. Other side. Now this is where being ambidextrous is good. Or in my case, I'm just going to use just go the other way. It feels a bit strange, but you can do it. This is the thing about going slowly as well, because if you slip, you're so close to your fingers. Going slowly and lightly, pressing lightly, means the cut wouldn't be so bad. Pressing heavily means there's a lot of force behind it, and if you slip and hit your finger, you're going to cut badly. And that's why having a sharp scalpel is always good, because you don't have to press so hard. This is stuff I learnt from butchering days, about having a respect for the blade. And that one's through as well. Next cut would be down there. I need to clear that. This one might be easier to saw off, to be honest, which is also a viable way of doing it. I use a blade with the spine taken off, so you can have it flat against things. Yeah, I think we'll go for that. And I'm in the way, so even this, you can. I've even shortened it as well, so you not for this job, but it's good to have saws of different length, because you'd never be able to get a saw with a handle in there. And that's struggling a bit, I must admit. Let's go with the blade. And if it's a hidden thing that's never going to be seen, you can do it by hand. It doesn't matter that it's not a perfectly straight edge, because it's hidden. There we go, I think this is through. And with any luck, the engines will fit in. Yep. We can but try. Now I'm not going to thread it through completely, I'm just going to see if it fits. What's the problem here? Oh, that has to go. There you go. Yep. Just go across there. Again, you don't have to rush it or go mad. I'm leaving a little bit of this buttress across here in place, just for strength, I guess. And you never know when you might want to stick something else to it, and well, there's no point cutting it all out if you don't have to. It's wavering off there for some reason. Side as well. When I do these DVDs, it means I've got to turn the music off. And I always have music. Right, this one's now through. Not straight, but it doesn't matter. Again, as I said, it's unseen. So often as well, you do things that would be so much easier if you got off your lazy arse and did them standing up. Right, take two. Okay, that's slightly better. What's now stopping it? Oh, right. More. You need to take more out. Well, I'm going to cut until I've taken the rest out. No point in. Now you see it sits happily in place. And let's just give it a test. See if it lights up. Having threaded it through, things can sometimes dislodge. There you go. Let's try with some lights out. For a better effect. Yeah. And they're pretty good. And this is just a 1.5. Well, it's 1.5. It's 4.5 volts, and that's it. There you go. I think we put some red gel in there or orange gel to change the temperature. Okay, well, this is Foamex. That's a piece of 3mm. It comes in sheets 8x4, but you can always ask your supplier to cut it into 2 sheets or 4, whatever fits in your car. I've got some 5mm here, which you can still cut with a blade, You can always laminate several pieces together and end up with a really thick piece like that. It's very versatile. That's 2 pieces of 3 which are super glued together to form a solid curve. It will curve in 2 directions. You know, if you vac form it, it will vac form, but I don't have an example of that with me. So what I was really going to show you is how to cut an angle on a piece like this. Cut a, you know, say a 45 degree on it. So that's today's lesson. So I need a nice sharp scalpel blade for this. And also I might even just show you quickly, you know, people probably have different ways of doing this. This is the way I've always done it. Let's go down to the edge here. Probably cut myself doing this, showing you. Now I just push my finger behind that there and pushed it out a bit and just nudge it forward a little tiny bit over that catch there, and then I'll do the rest on the edge of something, say the edge of the bench, and then I can just pull it like that without risking my fingers. So changing the scalpel blade, well, for beginners, you know, it can be a bit hairy, so putting on the new one again, I put it on so far and then I push it down and risk breaking the tip off, but rather that than my finger. So there we go, new scalpel blade. And with this one you certainly need a good hand strength on the left to keep everything in place, and you put the ruler as close to the edge as you possibly can, if not on the edge, but so that I'd say, man, you can use the edge of your finger as well to feel it, so that feels like it's right on the edge. Now you don't go in like a bull with this one, you go very, very lightly, because until you get started the chance of jumping off and hitting your own finger is quite high, so yeah, gently does it. Now you can more or less judge 45. I mean, if you want to get a 45 block and place your scalpel on it and then just pull away, you can, but I just always guess it. I mean, you lightly for the first one. I mean, once you've gone truly underneath it, you can usually do that, but it is odd because you're pushing up this way, so that's where all the care comes in. And usually about 3 or 4 passes. I think that's it, yeah. So yeah, it's not bad. It might not be 45 degrees, but you've got a lot less to sand off if you wanted to sand it to 45. And of course you do another piece, and you know, you'll end up with it, you'll be able to put together. Even if you end up with a gap at the back, that doesn't matter because you can fill it with super glue. So I tend to go over 45 rather than under usually, but yeah, it's no great shakes, you know, it's dead easy. The thing is the control of this, you know, not slicing your fingers off. So if any of you do that, don't blame me. People have been doing this for a long time. It's something I couldn't really neglect to tell you that I do. If you want to chance it, that's up to you. It's just like I say, it's one of those time-saving tricks. And confidence it always helps. So you know, and respect for the blade and all those sorts of things. So there you go. That's how to cut 45 on Fomex. One thing that I was going to show you. Oh yeah, it's how it damages. I probably have to go close to this or get it in shadow, but you know, a thumbnail will leave a mark on it if you press on it. Don't know if you can see that. there, which can be good if you want to put some scratches on something, make it look battered and beaten. But if you're going to clad it, it doesn't really matter. Or you can just be really careful with it and, you know, not mark it. But these will fill afterwards. If you do have an accident, you'll be able to fill those with putty and smooth it out again. So it's a great material to work with. Expanded PVC. I know my supplier is Plastics Direct in Manchester, but you being all over the world, I wouldn't know where you can get it from. I'd Google it, definitely Google it. Okay. Cut. Okay, should be about right. Okay, the first section has come to an abrupt end because I decided to upgrade my camera. So the next several chunks, don't know how many it's going to be, but it's a lot more than 1 hour, are going to be in high definition, so you'll be able to plug it into your big telly as opposed to a PC monitor screen. So that's it really. We have a long way to go before we get to that. So that was it. It was just a little film to explain the abrupt ending, and I'll see you in the next chunk. Okay, say no to drugs, kids.